Okay, so I'm here and I'm interviewing a Trump supporter. I found you off of Reddit, and the day that Trump won, I woke up, Trump won, and I go to r/Trump, and you wrote the top post. So I don't know if you have it pulled up. Do you mind if I read it off? Just because like this is kind of how I found you, and then you can kind of talk about how you were feeling when you wrote it, and maybe give a little bit of a background about yourself.
Uh, so yeah, I wrote, y'all, I'm about to tear up. This is such a beautiful day. I'm black, and I'm glad that Trump won. I'm a fucking cry. And I told him like, yeah, we did that. And my fellow black men who voted for Donald Trump, I'm proud of y'all for leaving that democratic slave plantation mentality. And I knew faith in him. And it's only up. Yeah, that's what I wrote for him.
Yep. And it's got a lot of it got a lot of attention. Do you usually post in like the Trump subreddit, or is this kind of like new to get a post that kind of exploded in attention like that?
I mean, yeah, to get posted explode and shit like that. Yeah.
So, what's your background? You said you're 23. Is this kind of the first election that you've been politically involved in, or have you even been politically involved in this, or did you just like wake up one day and you're like, I'm gonna vote for Donald Trump? Like, what's kind of your whole
So
political
like I
connections?
was involved in 2020, but what I must say, and it's gonna sound a little fucked up because I used to want to vote Democrat, and I used to like be around, claim Democrat or whatever. And it was mainly because, as black people, we was all taught no matter what, vote blue, no matter
Mm-hmm.
who it is, no matter what it is, vote blue. And so I of course, back in 2020, I voted for Joe Biden. I hate to admit that, but I gotta
Yeah, I did too.
call it how it is.
Yeah. So,
In 2016, I wasn't old enough to vote yet.
right. Yeah, me neither. Um, So yeah, so were you involved politically at all? Like what's kind of how do you get your political information? I think that's a big question that I have on my mind.
How do I get my political information? Usually, like, first, how it goes, I'll hear about something, then I'll go and do like my research and read up on it and see what's this and what's that, and find right from wrong from like actual political speakers or
Hmm.
whatnot, and see what they're telling the truth and what they're lying about. And that's pretty much how I,
So like who
get
are
it.
some of the political speakers you're listening to? Is it like, Ben Shapiro, I'm assuming? Do you ever listen to guys
Of
like him?
course.
So
Yeah.
basically, is it like you're listening to like you'll see a Ben Shapiro clip, he'll say something, and then you'll be like, okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna do some more research on what he's saying, and then you kind of form your political views off of that. Would you say?
Uh, no, because my thing is like I'll listen to Ben Shapiro talk, and then I'll listen to Destiny talk, and then
No.
I'll fact check both of them. Because everything is just a Google search away from seeing if it's valid or not.
Yeah, that's true. That's a
And
good point, and I feel like a lot of people won't even make that Google search. That like 30 second take 30 seconds to Google search it up.
exactly, and the thing is like a lot of the stuff. Okay, so Ben Shapiro, I can't lie, he do say some very sometimes he do say some outlandish stuff, but for the majority of the time, he does say a lot of stuff that's based into reality.
Interesting.
And Destiny, you know what? I feel like the guy, he
Because
has
Destiny's a
some
Democrat,
valid
right?
points.
Like he's pretty much only pushing for Democrats to win. Destiny is.
Right,
But
right.
you would you say you find yourself agreeing more with the stuff Ben Shapiro says than Destiny?
Yes.
Okay. What's funny to me is I feel like Ben Shapiro's content is kind of aimed towards older people. Like that's the experience I get from it. Like he does a lot of, oh, I'm gonna react to TikToks, or I don't know. I just kind of get that vibe from him. Um, you find his content engaging? Like how many Ben Shapiro clips would you watch, like per day or in a week?
Uh, oh God, I hate to say it this way, but I've binge watched a few of the fan pages he's got on TikTok,
Oh,
and
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm not on
that's
TikTok
how
now.
I heard about him because I didn't hear about him like on his own at first. I figured out about him, specifically him,
Hmm.
through TikTok clips. Then I did my research on him.
Yeah, like I've seen some Ben Shapiro stuff, and pretty much the only Ben Shapiro stuff I'll watch now is if he'll actually do a debate with someone. But
Hmm.
personally, for me, I'm just like not interested at all in hearing what he has to say on his own show. But I do find like the debates that he does entertaining because in these debates he could get challenged in interesting ways that he hasn't thought about before, and it makes him think critically, and it makes him actually like change some of the opinions that he has. And then do you watch debates with Destiny? Like what Destiny content do you watch? I'm curious.
Um, so of course I've heard about him slandering Andrew Tate. Then
I
I
haven't heard
think
about
what
that. Is that a thing?
yeah he roasted the shit out of Andrew Tate one time in a clip.
Is it warranted
Um,
or not warranted? Like, because you can kind of roast Andrew Tate for some real stuff. I think you can. I think there's some real things you can roast him for.
you there's some real stuff you can roast him for. Then there's sometimes where he'll tell the truth and people get emotional. But
Okay, yeah.
it was some time back and Destiny got on his ass. And then there was how I figured out about Destiny was through him fucking silencing Sneeko.
Did he? Man, I have no idea about any of like the Destiny lore or any of these like conservative guys like Sneeko or Andrew Tate. So, what happened between Destiny and Sneeko? Why don't you enlighten me?
Um, Nico, he came out there singing some. Matter of fact, I could pull it up right here.
Why don't you send me the link if you have like a link for it?
Okay.
Just because I don't know if you play it on your end, how it would go. So was it like him just making fun of Sneeko for being a cuck? Like that's kind of all I know about Sneeko.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he would say something about being a cuck if they did the same thing. I
Wait,
don't know.
what do you mean
Cause
they
keep
did
in
the
mind,
same thing?
Destiny,
What are you talking?
his girlfriend had ended up running off with somebody too. That
Oh my god.
at first he was like, just standing there watching the stuff happen. So I mean, I'm like, he can't, he got really can't say nothing about that.
the the drama is so messy, and I think that's like I honestly think that played a huge part in this election where you have this whole kind of media ecosystem of guys like Destiny interacting with Sneeko, interacting with Andrew Tate. There's drama, and then you have like Donald Trump going on all of these podcasts too. Were you able to like catch Donald Trump on anything? Like, did you watch him on Joe Rogan or any other podcasts?
I did watch I watched bits and pieces of the Joe Rogan one. I haven't watched the full one yet. No.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either. Do you watch Trump content? Like, see clips of him or like watch his rallies? Or like, what's your actual exposure to Donald Trump? Because you voted for him, right? Like, I'm assuming you voted for him.
I did.
So yeah, what's your
Um,
exposure to him? Like, have you gone to any rallies that he's done or anything like that?
nope. No. I mean, I went to a gathering where it was like me and a bunch of my friends and whatnot, and we were basically watching him have it. No, you know what? Let me be all the way honest here. Me and my friends all got together and watched them debate on TV.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Like, so you watched the debate against Kamala Harris, right? Or was it the
Of
Biden
course.
debate? Was it
What'd you say now?
was it his debate against Biden or his debate against Harris?
It was this debate against Harris.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I feel like almost everyone in the country watched that one, but you don't really watch Trump doing like interviews or other stuff like that, or like rallies or
Oh
like.
yeah, I've watched a few of his like interviews, like his, especially the ones from back in the day. Like, of course, the one that's going viral now, the one back when he was like 32, and they were asking him would he be president or whatnot.
Okay,
I'm assuming you've seen that one.
I have not seen that one. That might be another one you have to link me.
Oh geez,
That's pretty funny. Okay, but
there was
like,
that one.
so what? I mean, it's kind of. I personally feel like a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump voted for him because he's kind of a funny and interesting character. And let's be honest, what the Democrats were putting up there in terms of Kamala Harris, not a very inspirational politician to get behind. I would say Tim Walz is different. I think Tim Walz is actually a genuine person, kind of similar to Trump. I would say JD Vance is extremely not genuine at all. I think that guy's like a robot. But what got you to switch from Joe Biden, who also not a very inspirational candidate, to voting for Donald Trump? Like, you had the option to vote for Donald Trump in 2020, and now you switched to voting for him in 2024. So like, what kind of caused that shift to happen for you?
Well, firstly, because at that time I was still young, and also I was I'll say indoctrinated.
So was it kind of your
Because
family?
yes, because it's like in a black household, in a black family, it's pushed that everybody needs to go vote Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And the older people tell you, like, how the Republicans ain't gonna give you shit, and how the Democrats gonna do this and that for you and all
Yeah.
that. And it's like every time, and what a thing that made me switch was that every time I would like say, okay, maybe what if they do this or what if they do that, I would get shunned for it, and talked about like how they would say he don't get his black card no more and shit like that, or you want to tap dance for the white man type stuff,
Mm. So
and I'm
like,
like, I'm not
could you
tap
give?
dancing for nobody. I'm just thinking outside of the box, man.
Yeah.
You ain't even let me explain. So that's why I was like, all right, I want to look into them. I did, at that point in time, I didn't say I was like, all right, I'm gonna vote Republican, but I was like, I'm gonna look into this. And now in 2024, I'm like, oh hell yeah, I got to vote Republican.
So like, do you have? Could you give me a few examples of things you were saying that kind of caused people in your community to be like, "Oh, well, are you sure you're really black?" Like, I know you can't see me. I'm not black, um, but I understand that there is a strong tradition of voting for Democrat if you are black in America. And I do think that the Democratic Party kind of takes that for granted a lot of the time. And so they're like, well, of course, black people are going to vote for us because Republicans are racist, right? So is that kind of the break in? Is that kind of what you were experiencing, where it's like, well, you have to vote for Democrats because Republicans are racist, and then you were like, well, are they racist? Like, is he saying this, or what? What kind of things were you saying that was causing friction among people in your community?
Like, you know, in like the 2016s and 17s, I would talk about like how things are affordable, and I
Mm-hmm.
would basically be told like, so you want to go, so you trying to tell me you going to tap dance for the white man. So I would specifically bring that up, and I would still get shunned, and they would tell me like, vote blue no matter who. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, do you not see what the fuck we're going through? And you're telling me you're gonna vote blue? What?
So it's kind of just like
Um,
resentment on your part. It's like, just because I'm black doesn't mean I have to vote Democrat. and you kind of felt like
And
people were
here's
putting
my
that
thing,
box on
and
you.
here's one thing that twists me up with it. Like, for example, when Barack Obama went out and said that black men should be ashamed of themselves, I'm like, man, who the fuck are you, bro? How are you gonna tell me
Yeah, that was
who
interesting.
I should be ashamed of voting for? And also, like, you're not entitled to my vote. You earn my vote. You don't just get handed my vote because I'm black. Like,
Hmm.
this is not how this works. You know what I mean? And so they kind of like, once I heard that, I was like, man, bro, these people really think that they just own our vote, you know?
Yeah, and that makes sense. And we saw in this election, I'm looking at some of the stats right now. Let's see. These are the stats that I'm looking at. So in 2024, it says 83% of black voters supported Kamala Harris. And we can compare that to 2020, where 91%. So it went from 91% supporting Joe Biden to 83%. So I would say that's a pretty significant shift. And I honestly, like, I don't want to put this entire demographic shift and say that you're representative of it, but I do feel like a lot of people were feeling what you're describing right now. Have you seen any other people kind of have that rejection of Democrats? Or have you been pretty isolated in this process of leaving the Democratic Party?
But mostly like, uh, I'll say all the time. Like, I can go on social media and see people like, as soon as they say they speak out, they just get shunned, and you can go and see it in everybody's comments too. And also, I went through this thing with some of my friends too. Like, I literally got unadded on Snapchat by one of my other friends because I said that I was voting for Trump. And
Mm-hmm.
and me and her had been friends since high school, you know.
Mm.
Um,
And what was the
and
reason
then
there? Did she say anything other than just like you're voting for Trump, or was it more specific than that?
how it went was, I posted Trump 2024. She slid up and said ill gross. And then I said everything's about to get cheaper. And she just blocked me.
Dude, you you gotta have a little bit more tact with the ladies, okay? Like, I'm
It
just
ain't even that, bro. Bro, it ain't even that because she was a friend. It
okay.
wasn't
So
like
she was just a
I was
friend.
trying to get on that, man.
All right, all right. I'll trust you there. But I mean, to be honest, we there is a lot of this kind of rejection of Trump from women that I have been seeing. Like, I have a sister in college right now. She's posting on her Snapchat, "If you voted for Trump, unadd me." So you're not alone in getting blocked by people, which is unfortunate.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so listen, do you think that voting, so you're saying you're posting for Donald Trump 2024. So it's not only that you're like, I think I'm going to vote for him." You're like making this a part of your personality, I would say, right? Would that be an accurate description?
I won't say that I'm making it a part of my personality because I'm not really like a politician, but I am making it clear where I stand in politics. Like, I'm making it clear that I stand with Donald Trump, and honestly, if I'm being all the way honest here, I might just start
I mean, hold
voting
on, hold on. This
Republican
is
no
going to
matter who.
YouTube. This might be going to YouTube, so you might not want to be all the way honest, but go for it. It makes
Oh
it good
geez.
content.
Oh god, I'm finna go viral.
Nah, I hope not. I hope not. Let's just say like 1,000 views. That'd be a good amount for me.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, so what were you saying? You're talking about how like you're making it clear you're voting for Trump, and then you're going to be like, and if I'm going to be really honest, and I cut you off there. I interrupted you.
Yeah, I'm like, I voted for Trump. I made that clear who I stand with, and if I'm being all the way honest here, I think I'm gonna be voting Republican forever now.
Okay, that's interesting. So for me, from this conversation, what I've kind of gathered from it is it's not really that you were attracted to the Republican Party. You were more, I would say, from what I've heard so far, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a larger driving force for your departure from the Democrats and you voting for Republican is less of like Republicans being attractive and more of you being repulsed from the Democratic Party. Is that accurate, or were you actually attracted towards the Republicans? And if you were, what attracted you towards them?
So I'll say like for 70% you're correct. Or no, because it's like 50-50 if I'm being all the way honest here.
Okay.
So yes, I got shunned out a lot by like, just black family because, if you vote Republican, they looking at you with the side eyes. They just are not gonna fuck with you anymore. So there's that. And then also a lot of the Republican ideologies I agree with. Like for example, trans women not being able to go in the same bathrooms as women and play in the same sports as women. I fully support that.
Okay, that's interesting.
Also, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's interesting because the Democrats didn't really talk about trans people at all this election. That's like a pretty one sided issue at this moment. I also think it's an extremely like microscopic issue, but to me, when you say that that's an important issue to you, then that really shows to me that the Republican messaging on that was very effective. And sorry to cut you off. What else attracted you to the Republican Party?
Well, here's the thing. It's not more so the okay, so there's that. And then also illegal immigration because, with illegal immigration, we're getting all these programs and shit that, regular people it's I won't say nonsense. I'll say like 7 times out of 10 are not getting. And then like them running up the prices of everything,
Yeah,
like
economy.
oil and gas, petroleum and shit like that. Shit that drives up the prices of everything in our economy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I like for example, I want to put this out right. So think about this. In the past 3 days, we got the EU pledging to buy American oil. You know, we
Mm.
got the motherfucking stock market going up.
And all of this is because Trump was elected.
Literally, because I can guarantee you and I can put the money where my mouth is, had he not got elected, that stuff would not have happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Um, yeah, the gas prices have gone up. I'm looking at it right now. In 2023, it was like 3.52 per gallon. If we compare that to 2020, it was like 2.6. So definitely interesting, and you can see that. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. I mean, are you heavily invested in stocks? Did you personally get like a boon from the stock markets increasing, or is that just like, oh, look at that, that's interesting?
I do have investments in crypto,
Oh yeah,
and as you
okay,
already seen, Bitcoin just hit $75,000, which was an all-time high.
okay,
We're
gotcha.
looking at it touching 80 soon, trying to get to 100.
And Donald Trump's kind of like the crypto president, right? Like he has his own crypto coin.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. Um, so I mean, come on, like trans issues, immigration issues, how that's not affecting you in your personal life, is it? Like, do you have like a younger sister that was menaced by a trans woman in the bathroom, or are you just basing this off of stuff you see online? Because the economy is one thing, that's a real thing in my opinion. You go to the gas station, you see the prices increase. You go to the grocery store, eggs are up to like $4 a dozen. And then also like the stock market, that's real. And I would say that since you're heavily invested in crypto, Trump is going to like deregulate crypto. That could personally affect you. But trans issues and immigration, I mean, if you've been personally affected by that, I would love to hear your story of it.
Well, here's my thing. I feel like okay. You know what? You know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. I'm gonna admit it. I'm gonna
Admit it.
admit it. I'm man enough to admit it. You got me. You got me the tongue twister right there. That's
I,
just some shit I agree with.
okay, yeah. I mean, I really don't blame you because, to be honest, I think Republicans messaged on trans issues and illegal immigration extremely well. And we had like Trump talking about the open border, right? And he got even Kamala Harris to be like, no, we have to close the border. We have to close it. Don't worry, guys. If you vote for me, I'm going to close the border. I'm going to stop illegal immigration. And it's like, how are people actually affected by illegal immigrants? I've never gotten an answer to that question. Like, did you followed like the cats and dogs thing with the Haitian migrants, right? Like, what are your thoughts on that story?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that was some outlandish shit.
Yeah, I could not
You
believe it
know,
when
they
Donald Trump
be
said
like
it.
they're eating the dogs.
Yeah, I could not believe it. Um, okay, well, I kind of want to go back to your Reddit post that you made. Could you just talk a little bit more about like where you said we're leaving that democratic slave plantation mentality? Because I think that's what stuck out to me the most. And if you do watch Trump rallies, there's always like one black guy behind Trump, and he's wearing a "Blacks for Trump" shirt. Like, I do think that that's kind of a message that Republicans would want to expand upon if they can get more black people to join the Republican ticket and vote for Donald Trump. That's going to be something that I feel like we're going to see Republicans try to get more and more of in the future. So, yeah, I'd love to hear you expand upon that like slave plantation mentality that you posted about.
Okay, so as far as that slave plantation mentality, my whole point with that is that you don't have to vote Democrat just because your grandmother and auntie telling you to, you know, and if you black, you do not owe your votes to the Democrats. There's no reason for you to feel like you just have an obligation to vote blue no matter who, and because you're your own person at the end of the day, and those people that are telling you vote blue no matter who, they're not thinking about what the implications of if you vote blue. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yeah.
like in my opinion, had Kamala won this presidency, it would have just got worse, and everything just would have kept on going up and up and up and up and up, and
That,
we would
oh,
end up paying $5 for a gallon. You know what I mean? But
no, I understand what you're talking about.
yeah, man. I just want more black men to open their eyes and just think through, like, you know, you you don't owe these people anything. You know what I mean?
So
They
let me
you
pause you there because what you're talking about makes a lot of sense to me. And the one thing I would say is you said you voted Republican for the first time this election, and you said I don't think I'm gonna ever vote Democrat again. What I would argue, or what I would advise you to do, is do what you were doing. You were saying, I'm not going to vote blue no matter who because I actually want to analyze these candidates. And if I'm voting blue no matter who, then there's no reason for the Democratic candidate to ever like actually help out black voters. If they're just expecting them to vote for them all the time, why would they ever change their policies to help us out? And what I would say is, I think what you did and what we saw like 8% of the black voting population do is say, you're not supporting us. We're going to go with the Republicans. What I would just say is, I think you would maximize your power as a voter if you said, okay, we showed that you need our vote. We showed that we're not going to vote for you unless you give us things that we actually want. So, would you be open to voting more Democratic in the future if the Democratic candidate did make an actual effort to give you things that would improve your material well being? Like, would you be open to voting Democrat again?
Uh, it would strongly depend on who it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Okay. Because I don't know if you keep up with like the Israel versus Palestine stuff. Are you like
right, I do.
okay? You do so, and I'm sure you know that like there's a lot of Muslim voters in America that said we're not going to vote for Kamala Harris because she's basically funding Israel, which is doing a genocide in Gaza right now, and so they were trying to make her lose so that they could like show that they had this power over the Democrats, and the Democrats would have to change their policies to try to earn their vote back. Um, and all I'm saying is that I think that that's a viable strategy for like all different types of voting blocks, including voting blocks that I think you are representative of. Does that make sense? Like how you can kind of
Yeah,
leverage your vote. Okay.
for sure, for sure.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me. How much more time do you have? Because I want what I'd like to do is just run through a few of Trump's policies and then run through a few of Harris's policies and just get your opinion on those.
Here, what time is it? Uh, what the fuck?
It's cool if you have to go.
11:06. Oh yeah, yeah, okay, okay, yeah. I got some time.
Got some time? Okay, let's maybe like 20 minutes at most. Sound good?
All right. Yeah,
Okay,
that's cool.
so I'm on PBS and it says here's where Donald Trump stands on key policies ahead of his second administration. I'm just on the website. So immigration, you said you were pro like so what's interesting to me is Donald Trump is not only saying we're going to stop illegal immigration, but he's also saying that he's going to deport millions of illegal immigrants. Do you? So I'm assuming you're not an immigrant. You were born in the United States and grew up there. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Okay, so do you think that deporting millions of illegal immigrants is like the best like course of action? Like what's your thought on the actual like deporting of people that are here illegally?
Support
And there's no
immigrants.
easy answers, okay? So like the I don't know is a very valid answer to this because this is a tricky question, I would say.
I know it's such a double-edged sword.
And what I've seen, because I do watch a lot of like more progressive people that are on the left, and just to kind of like give you some more context on that, it's like the Democrats are kind of in the center, and then you have the Republicans that are kind of on the right. And then the people that I watch and who kind of inform my opinion are even further left than the Democrats. So it's like the Democrats are getting hated by like both sides of the country right now. It's like they're getting hated by progressives and by the conservatives, which I find funny. But what these people talk about is the idea of deporting millions of people is almost impossible to do without like mass amounts of violence happening in the streets, sending in the military, sending in the police, and basically building concentration camps for all of these people that have already, let's just be honest, have already assimilated into society and are working jobs. So I feel like that would cause a lot more pain and suffering than it would alleviate by getting like I don't see evidence that illegal immigrants are kind of causing harm to this country. Do you kind of see what I'm talking about there?
In a sense, but at the same time, did you see what that dude Brandon Johnson just had to do in the city of Chicago?
No, tell me about it.
So because he decided not to
Who's Brandon Johnson, by the
cut
way?
Brandon Johnson. I think he's the fucking mayor of
He's the
Chicago or
mayor?
something
Okay,
like that.
I'll look it
He's
up.
Democratic.
All right, so what did he do?
So
Yeah, he's the mayor of
he
Chicago.
had a one like an almost $1 billion deficit in the 2025 budget,
Mm-hmm.
and so to fucking decrease half of that, he decided to raise the what the fuck tax is it? Property taxes. He decided to raise city property taxes by $300
Oh,
billion.
jeez. Oh, okay. So basically,
So,
you're saying that like the deficit is due to illegal immigrants? Is that kind of what
well,
you're?
I say that because they have plenty of programs, and then okay, there was a woman who went on who went to a hearing and spoke out about it and talked about how they have these restaurants and these all these big things going on down in the streets
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot, and they have these shelters and all this food programs and stuff being handed out to them. And so she's basically was telling him like, so instead of cutting all that stuff off and sending people home, you're gonna raise the taxes by $300 million
Yeah.
and just say fuck us. Cause think about it, when landlords get hit with property taxes, they're not just gonna accept the loss. They're gonna
Right.
say, okay, well, you need to pay this much more in rent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes sense, and that is kind of that is something that I do think that immigrants coming to cities causes, which is inflation. Obviously, when they get more assimilated into the new place that they've immigrated to, that inflation will stop rising and the prices will normalize. And I think at the end of the day, the cities that immigrants come to are better off because of the immigrants. We can look at Springfield, where all of the Haitians went, and how they're like, oh, well, now we need to pay for English lessons for Haitians, and this is causing so much stress that Haitians can't drive. And it's like, okay, but they've also provided so much labor at factories that were about to close down because no one's going to work there. And at the end of the day, you are going to have some growing pains of like increasing prices of rent, more burdens on the social services that the cities are providing. But at the end of the day, it's just more labor. And I don't know if you follow like the whole idea of America is a population in decline, and we kind of need immigrants to replace these labor jobs that aren't being filled by native born Americans. So, I mean, that's kind of a long spiel, but I think we're kind of in agreement about immigration. Um, from what I'm hearing, you're not like in favor of deporting millions of people. Like, if we're talking about how expensive it costs to feed these people, imagine how expensive it would be to round them all up and then deport them.
Yeah. Uh. Yeah. Damn.
I mean, okay, immigration is
Damn.
kind of a sticky issue. I mean,
It's definitely a double edged sword.
yeah. Do you have any more closing thoughts on immigration? Because I do kind of want to get to the topic of abortion because I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Uh, you know what? We just gonna leave immigration where it is.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like we could talk about that all night.
Exactly.
So abortion. I mean, Donald Trump got into office in what 2016. He appointed, I think, three Supreme Court justices to the Supreme Court, and they overturned Roe versus Wade. Are you like familiar with the specifics of Roe versus Wade and what
Of
that made
course,
law?
it was about abortion that happened in 2022, and
Mm-hmm.
basically it just canceled out abortion rights for women in a lot of different places or whatnot, and
Right.
made it to where it was up to the states or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly correct. It was so abortion. So Roe versus Wade was basically it needs to be legal in the first trimester of pregnancy throughout every state. Then you can have some restrictions in the second trimester, and then states get to decide about the third trimester. So it enshrined a right to abortion nationwide in the first trimester, and then it allowed states to kind of do laws after that. So it's kind of states' rights, but it also gave everyone a right to abortion up to a point. And then they got rid of it, and so it went entirely to the states. So yeah, what are your thoughts on generally on abortion, and also what are your thoughts about Trump basically getting rid of the right to abortion, because he did do that through his appointing of these conservative Supreme Court justices.
Okay, I might ruffle some feathers with this one, but
Or do it,
I
hit me.
personally I don't think that he's responsible for that because even though yes, you could say that he appointed the Supreme Court justices because that's only true.
Just saying
Yes,
he
he did
did accept
appoint those three
responsibility for
people,
it. Trump has said
but
that he's accepted responsibility for it.
my whole thing is that's their decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's not Donald Trump didn't walk in there and say, "Hey, we need to overturn Roe v. Wade." They woke up and decided to do that. That's how I feel about it. This is what I'm talking about when I say Russell Smith. I don't feel like this is Donald Trump's fault because they woke up and decided to do that, not him.
Okay, but Donald Trump has supported them overturning Roe versus Wade. And the Democrat, like, let's just say Kamala Harris won, and she's like, if I win, I'm going to make sure that Roe versus Wade is the law throughout all of the United States. So if you have the choice of what we have now, which is state by state, and have you heard about some of the pregnant women that have died because of a lack of abortion care?
I sure did, and I mean, in my opinion, I feel like that was fucked up, and I feel like the doctors knew they should have did some shit about it because
Right.
at the end of the day, that's somebody's life. That's what,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my thing. That's where I draw the line at. Like, if a woman is about to die because of pregnancy and she just can't have it, or if she got some medical conditions to where she know in the future this is gonna fuck her up, then they need to just go ahead and let her get on through.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And generally, I am against abortion just because I think it's a medical procedure. Like it can be a surgical procedure. And generally, I'm like, okay, well, let's try to create conditions that minimize the amount of surgeries that people in this country need. But if it's due to the life of it's if it's between the life of the mother and the life of the like the unborn baby, the fetus, I'm always going to choose the life of the mother.
For sure.
And one, I mean, it seems like we're in agreement with this, but I always point to nature and I'm like, okay, if a mother bear is pregnant, this is such a stupid example because you could come up with examples where abortion wouldn't happen. But basically, if a mother bear is pregnant, she doesn't have enough like body fat percentage, she'll just internally like abort the fetus, and it's like that's just something that's always stuck in my mind. It's kind of dumb though. But what's interesting about this abortion question is that a lot of abortion amendments to state constitutions passed, even though those states voted for Donald Trump. So it seems like there's a lot of people that are separating the Trump issue from abortion, which honestly is exactly what you did. So I think that's really interesting that people are making their opinion, like their differences of opinion, known with Trump. But I mean, Trump has also said he wants to leave it up to the states, so you can say that he's for it. My one concern with voting for Trump is backed by a lot of pretty much insane evangelical Christians that want to ban abortion nationwide. So that's kind of a concern that I have with him. Like, how much influence do they have over this guy? And in the debate, Trump never said that he wouldn't sign an abortion ban if it got to his desk. And he's kind of left that issue an open question. So do you have any fears about that? Or are you just like, he's made his stance clear, it's a states' rights issue?
Yo, I feel like with that one, I don't think Trump would be the type to just be like, ah, yeah, fuck all these people who I told I was just gonna do this. No, I don't think he's gonna do that. I don't think he gonna side that say it's being all across the world or all across America.
I mean, and let's be honest, how many abortions has Trump paid for? Like with all the women he cheats with, I think Trump is pro-abortion, like personally. But once again, who can you really trust him when he has these fucking crazy cultists supporting him? Let's. All right, next topic: taxes. So one kind of interesting thing is Trump wants to cut taxes. He did cut taxes, but the majority of his tax cuts went to wealthy Americans. What's your view on that?
I mean, me personally, from what I think that it was good for him to just make tax cuts on the wealthy because then the wealthy won't have to tax us as hard to make their profit because
Oh,
a lot.
dude, no way. Don't say that.
I believe that. I'm saying, bro, listen to me though. Listen to me. Cause think about it. Would you stay in business, right? Would you stay in a business where you know you aren't making any profit and just not go up on the price of anything to make any type of profit? Or would you just be like, no, I'm gonna close it down? Or would you just accept the loss? How would you go about it?
Okay, well, if let's just say this. If business let's look at it the opposite way. If businesses are given a tax cut, are they going to lower their prices for people? Now that they have to pay less taxes, they're like, okay, well, let's lower the prices for people. Or are they just going to pocket that extra money that they're not paying in taxes? Because let's remember, we have these prices now. We're dealing with the prices right now, and Trump's like, I'm gonna give you a tax cut. Are those price are we gonna see prices drop now? I don't think so.
You know what? This is almost a checkmate, but I slightly got some hope that they're gonna go down on the prices. I slightly believe it.
Well, what I will say is the government could get more involved in like specific industries like gas and maybe even in terms of some produce by subsidizing farmers, and then it'd be like we're paying you more, but your prices are gonna decrease. Like, and you could do some like market manipulation with that. If they're like, okay, we're paying you to produce corn, but the price of corn has to be like $3 a bushel. Like maybe the government could do that, and that's still that's like more of a subsidy than a tax cut. But like at the end of the day, it's kind of all the same thing. It's like the government giving money to people. And then have you heard? So Trump has made a big deal about tariffs. Have you heard about that stuff? Like, what's your view on his tariffs?
I think that he doing that because he wants to have American made companies making everything.
Yeah,
I think that's his reasoning behind that.
I mean, did are you on Twitter at all?
Uh, yeah.
So the reason I ask is Elon Musk had a pretty famous tweet where some guy basically said, "Oh, when Donald Trump gets elected, uh, the country's gonna go to shit." Pretty like that's pretty much what he said. But then, as people realize that we're in stable hands over a period of time, it's gonna become much better. And Elon Musk, who is like Trump's little buddy in this election, is like, yeah, that's pretty much accurate. And I agree, and I know that tariffs can be used to do like promote American manufacturing in certain aspects, but I mean Trump's talked about doing like a 20% tariff on everything, and that would just again that would be like companies are paying 20% more on raw materials that they're importing, and so why wouldn't the prices for consumers just increase by 20%? Again, like the owners of the companies wouldn't want to take that loss.
I didn't hear he said that. What did you say that in the interview?
I mean, I'll link this to you and you can check it out. So the good thing about Trump is he lies all the time, right? And so maybe he's lying about this. Maybe he won't do it. But he has talked about tariffs, and he's kind of because what's interesting is Biden has actually left a lot of Trump's tariffs on China, like making Chinese imports more expensive. Biden left those in place, but he's left like them in a very specific industries in place. And to be honest, I don't know off the top of my head what the industries are, but there is a difference between like targeting specific industries. Like, let's say we target Chinese electric vehicles because we want America to produce electric vehicles. And why would you buy an American electric vehicle for like $40,000 if you could buy a Chinese electric vehicle for like 15K? So Biden left that tariff in place so that it would cost more like 25K maybe. Let's just say that. But Trump would be like everything imported from China. At least that's what I understand it. And I can read you this article. So,
Because I would assume TikTok Shop and AliExpress, and then that goes down to Nissans and all that shit.
right. So this says Trump's posture on international trade is to distrust world markets as harmful to American interests. He proposes tariffs of 10 to 20% on foreign goods, and in some speeches has mentioned even higher percentages. He promises to reinstitute an August 2020 executive order requiring that Food and Drug Administration buy essential medications only from U.S. companies. He pledges to block purchases of any vital infrastructure in the U.S. by Chinese buyers. So just kind of like very isolationist and basically saying a lot of what Trump says is that you can really only do and manufacture stuff in the US. Anyway, yeah, but that's the thing. Trump doesn't actually have like specific policies that he's designed and is ready to implement. It's just like him kind of riffing. He's like, "Oh yeah, let's do tariffs. Tariffs sound cool. We'll do tariffs." But that's something like obviously you can read more about. Okay, the next segment on this is DEI, LGBTQ, and civil rights. So, what do you think of when you hear that? DEI, LGBTQ, and civil rights.
Mm, well, the thing is, I mean, DEI is almost at every company you go to now. So I don't know what he could possibly do about that.
Yeah, it's not like a
Um,
government policy, right? It's just like it's kind of like more corporate stuff.
right, but it's like literally every fucking job I get my orientation that they show that diversity, equity, inclusion shit on the orientation
Oh wow,
videos and whatnot. So
that's actually pretty funny.
it yeah.
So
Um
so wait, are you so do you get hired to jobs and you're like the one black person there? And then they're talking about how we need to have DEI and you look around and there's like one person of every different ethnic group.
I've only been to one job like that.
Okay.
Um I've been at one job where I was like the only fucking black person in the building. But oh man.
Yeah, but I
Um
feel like DEI is kind of like a nothing thing. Like, if corporations want to say that they're trying to hire groups of people to make themselves feel better, how does, like, good? It's kind of dumb, right? Like, oh, well, we need to have one black person, one Asian person, one Latino person. Like, it's a dumb idea, but I don't really see it as an issue that we need to solve. And I think the issues that you talked about, like economy and gas, is way more important than DEI.
for sure.
And then you kind of talked about trans people. What do you think about like the LGBTQ? And just one thing to talk about there is a lot of more progressive people are concerned that the Supreme Court rolled back abortion rights, and one thing that is kind of connected to that through some kind of like legal mechanism is the right to gay marriage. And that's been passed by the Supreme Court, but it's kind of passed in the same way that Roe versus Wade was passed. And so, by the same logic that they repealed Roe versus Wade, they could repeal gay marriage. And then the other thing is they could also repeal interracial marriage, like making interracial marriage a right for people to have, which I think is insane.
think both of those are crazy. Yeah, I think both of those are crazy. Um, I think that shit for. Oh, let me see this over here. Okay, so as far as LGBTQ, I have no problem with them. I love them people. They're real cool with me.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
don't feel
agreed.
like they should be isolated out of nothing, and that's my stance on for as far as LGBTQ. Now, as far as gay marriage, I don't see what the fuck point it would be in banning that. Like, I don't see what personal gain there would be to
I mean,
ban
again, it's
LGBTQ.
it's like the religious evangelical people that support Trump. They want to get rid of abortion. They want to get rid of gay marriage because both of those go like are an affront to God in their eyes, and that's a very big voting bloc that supports Republicans.
The crazy part about it is that shit, I'm Christian too, and
Right, like I am
me
too.
personally, and I'm like, okay, of course, I pray every night, and I have a good connection with God, and I understand the word, but I don't think it's that serious to the point where I gotta get mad at somebody else because they want to get married to another female or another man. You know what I mean? That's not my business.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and I think
I
that
feel like
you have the opinion that the majority of like the vast majority of people in America have. But once again, like the thing that's concerning with Trump is that he has this voting block, and it's kind of like the devil on his shoulder whispering into his ear, and that's one thing that you wouldn't have with Democrats because those people are always going to vote Republican. But again, economy, like all of these issues kind of fall by the wayside in the face of just these exorbitant prices at the pump in the grocery store. Also, in terms of rent, like the cost of living is just so high right now, and I do think that all of these other issues have kind of melted in the face of like this extreme cost of living that we're experiencing.
exactly because like you know all that other stuff it matters, but at the same time, you can't put like how you feel about you know okay, so you can't put how you feel about gay marriage over the fact that people cannot put food on their table, and there are people out here literally having to choose between eating and paying bills. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of that stuff is just like, all right, we're gonna have to sit this off to the side by now because we gotta put some fucking food on the table.
Yeah, and I think that I mean the issues you listed as being important to yourself are the biggest issues that in terms of polling when people were asked what are the biggest issues to you, economy was like number one in pretty much every poll. So okay, so these are some more like I mean, these are also important issues. So let's just run down these. So social security. What do you think about that? How you should be how like throughout your career, you're paying into social security and then when you reach retirement age, you can collect on it. And it's basically like a social welfare system, essentially, right? It's increasing taxes on you and then it's helping you out when you get to retire. So I guess what I'm kind of asking you is do you support these social welfare systems, such as Social Security, such as maybe even like Medicare for all, where everyone could get their medical care taken care of them? And instead of paying like insurance companies, you would just pay higher taxes. I mean, do you kind of support these social programs like that, or have you thought about it at all?
Eh, you know what? With this one, I'm gonna say Uh, uh, okay, this was also a double-edged sword because it's like nobody wants to pay higher taxes, but everybody wants to be taken care of. So
Right.
I'll say,
And I
mm,
not to
I'm gonna
interrupt
say
you.
no.
You're going to say, so not to interrupt you, but what I was going to say is I feel like people would be comfortable paying higher taxes if they know that the money they're paying in is going to be directly translated into increased services for themselves. So when you can see where your money's going to, I feel like people would be more comfortable paying into it.
Oh yeah, for sure. That you know what? That's a good fucking point that I did not think about.
Right, because I mean, let's just take a look at like Israel right now. How many billions of dollars have we given Israel? Like $17 billion over the past year. Why would anyone want to pay higher taxes when your money is going towards a country that we have really no interest in? Like as American civilian or citizens, I don't give a shit what happens in Israel. Like let's I'm glad that they didn't get wiped off the face of the earth with that Hamas attack, but I don't want to give them $17 billion to do a genocide in Gaza. Like can we cut this money off and spend it on things that are important to us? Is that something you're kind of feeling too?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that way too. I'm like, yeah, we definitely shouldn't be sending them a bunch of money. My whole thing with the Israel and Palestine thing
Oh yeah, let's
is
get into
that
it.
um my whole thing is that, I won't say that Gaza, but I'll say Hamas popped that off. I say that they started that since what they did was they went in there on of course we all know October 7th. They went in there
Mm-hmm.
and slaughtered a whole bunch of innocent Israelis, and then when it hit social media the next morning, all these people were just talking about freedom fighters and this and that,
Yeah,
and
like the
nobody
Hamas
talked
soldiers were
about the
freedom
full
fighters.
story.
What's interesting to me is I mean, okay, this is another can of worms. And honestly, I'd love to talk. Like, I'd love to do a whole nother conversation about Israel and Palestine because I think it's really interesting. It's something that I've done a lot of looking into over the past year. What's really interesting to me is, well, first of all, I mean, do you know how many people Hamas killed on October 7th?
Yeah, I honestly don't.
So they went in and they killed about 1,200 Israelis. And I say about 1,200 because, to be honest, there's not an exact count. And the reason there's not an exact count is because Israel has this military doctrine, and you can look into this yourself. I think it's called like the Dahia doctrine, and they designed it. And basically, what the Dahia doctrine is it says if there are hostages and a terrorist, if a terrorist takes hostages, just bomb the entire building that they're in, kill the hostages, kill the terrorists. And what's interesting is that when Hamas comes in, they start shooting up people. We have a lot of evidence of people getting like blown up by bombs and stuff. And people look to the Israeli army as killing a lot of Israeli citizens because they come in, they just start shooting everything. And so, again, we don't have an exact count of how much Hamas killed. But either way, it doesn't matter. Like, what Hamas did was horrible, right?
Right.
But, so they killed, let's just say they killed 1,200 Israeli citizens. 60% of the Israelis they killed were in the military. That's still a pretty bad number, right? Six
For sure.
six military for every four civilians. Do you know how many people in Gaza have been killed so far? I mean, it's been a year,
Somewhere
right?
around like in the 40,000, something like that. Am I correct?
Yeah. So I think the most recent numbers are 50,000, and that's 50,000 people that are dead who we have the names of and we have the bodies for. And those are the people that have been directly killed from bullets or bombs or like crushed by buildings. Hamas numbers in Gaza. Hamas. So one thing that's kind of fucked up is Israel will say that anyone who is a man above the age of, I think it's like 12 or older, is a Hamas soldier. And so when you look at Israel's numbers and they're like, we've killed 40,000 terrorists so far, it's like, okay, well, I mean, not everyone you've killed is Hamas. And I think it was something like Hamas had, yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Hamas was like 5% of the population. I mean, in a population of 2 million people, the percentage of actual radical fighters is going to be pretty small. And then also, so those are the number of people that we have the bodies identified for. And then there's an estimated like hundreds of thousands of people dead from disease, dead from starvation. There's thousands of people that have been essentially put into concentration camps within Israel. I don't know if you followed like some of the torture that Israel's been doing to the Palestinian prisoners that they have, but essentially they're
You know,
just,
see here, this is the part we talking about because they ain't tell us about that.
it's pretty gross. Like, have you heard of like the sexual violence that Hamas did on October 7th and how they're talking about how so many women were raped, like sexually assaulted?
Oh yeah, I heard about that. And then one thing I heard about a lot is that fucking Hamas soldiers, what they do is dress up and hide amongst regular civilians and
Mm-hmm.
inside of hospitals and schools and stuff. And then when regular civilians get killed, they'll just be like, "Oh, you out here killing civilians." It's like, no, you dressing up as a civilian.
Yeah. So, uh, so what's interesting is everything that you can say about Hamas can be said even more about Israel. Did you know that the president and the minister of defense of Israel are wanted by the International Criminal Court of Justice for war
So they're
crimes?
wanted by fucking Interpols. What you saying?
Not Interpol, but let's see. So the ICC, which is the International Criminal Court, issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu, who's the president of Israel, and Yoav Gallant, who is the Minister of Defense of Israel. And basically, they said that they're both committing war crimes. And also, the people that want the arrest of those two leaders of Israel wanted the arrest of the leaders of Hamas as well. So basically, they're saying both of these guys are shitty. Let's both charge them with war crimes or charge all of them with war crimes. So that's not something you hear every day. And
Exactly. See here, you know what? Damn, I gotta brushing up the schools, man. See here, this is some shit that I didn't hear about.
oh, bro, you should check out my YouTube channel. I'll tell you about it. So basically, my YouTube channel is there's this one. Do you know Ethan Klein, like the H3 podcast?
I think I've heard of it before.
Basically, he's like this podcaster. He had a podcast. So he's Jewish. He had a podcast with a Muslim co-host. And then October 7th happened where it was like Muslims attacking Jews in Israel, and they had like a really awkward conversation where it's like obviously the Jewish guy kind of took the side of Israel and the Muslim guy took the side of Palestine. And I'm really simplifying this for you. Like it's much more complex than that. And I'm kind of doing a disservice. But anyway, it's been this whole drama now. And so I've been kind of covering that. But it's silly, but it's also kind of interesting to hear this American guy relating so much with Israel. And man, don't get me started. I think we could have a whole other conversation on this, but I'm glad that I kind of piqued your interest in it. And I do want to let you go. There's just a few more things that I want to talk about. So the first thing is, since this kind of relates to what we were talking about, how do you see America? I mean, I'm just looking through Trump's policies, And the last one is the national defense and America's role in the world. So when you hear that, what do you think about?
Can you repeat it for me, sorry, for me?
Oh, yeah, like national defense and America's role in the world.
Uh, I think that America plays a big motherfucking role in the world. Um, and as far as national defense,
Hold on, you're like
I
super
think
muffled right
that
now.
all the overspending we do on that kind of comes in handy at some point. You know, because all that overspending we do on national defense kind of comes in power. Well, it kind of comes in handy. It kind of brings us that power. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Uh, so do you, so do you see that like all of this spending that we're doing on the military is playing a role in America's national defense? Like, do you see it that way?
Yeah.
And I guess like what country do you see being the biggest issue for America? Or is it just like in general it's a good idea to have a strong military?
I mean, as far as like, and are we assuming a situation of like an all-out war?
Well, right. It's like let's I mean, my opinion is let's try to not get into a war with a country. But right now we're currently like funding Ukraine in their fight against Russia. We're also giving billions of dollars to Israel to um, not only fight against Palestine, but I don't know if you've heard now they're invading Lebanon. And again, I can get into that, but let's just leave it at that. So like we're funding these countries, but we're not like, as far as I know, we're not really in a full all-out war with like a superpower, like China, like Russia, like North Korea. And I'd like to avoid that, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting, right? Like, should we spend money on the military to avoid wars, or should we just be like, ah, fuck it, let's just get into wars? Like, How do you view war?
Mm, I feel like it. As far as war, we definitely should try to get into as few of them as possible because when we do get into a bunch of wars, it breaks on taxes on citizens, and then on top of that, it's like people die, you know, and
Yeah,
I mean, I don't see really nothing good to come up for what somebody's land gets invaded. What fucking good is that? Doesn't make anybody happy. Not the people who live there, and not the people who taking it over either.
right. Yeah, I
So
100% agree. And do you remember when like Biden pulled out of Afghanistan?
yeah,
Yeah. And that's something that Trump said he was going to do. That's something that Obama wanted to do when he was president. And like, it's kind of funny. Biden's the only one with enough balls to do it. And like, sure, his approval rating took a hit when he did it because it wasn't the cleanest pullout. But honestly, that was like one of the best things Biden did as president, in my opinion.
yeah.
Um,
I feel like one of the best things he did was capping out insulin at $35.
oh, yeah. I mean, that's also a good one. Um, okay. And then oh, and then one other thing that I would say about like the whole war idea, I think that if you do trade with countries, that really minimizes the chance that you would go to war with them. And that's like a big reason why people aren't so afraid of China anymore in America because we're doing so much trade with China. It's not like why would China want to attack America and why would we want to attack China? Because we're both in a beneficial relationship with each other. And just one more thing about the tariffs is if Trump does enact tariffs on China, then that's going to really decrease the amount of trade and maybe even increase tensions between the countries and like possibly open up the road to a military conflict. So that's what I would kind of be concerned about with that. Does that make sense?
You know what? That's a checkmate right there. Yeah,
I'm not trying to
yeah.
checkmate
You got
you. Like these aren't positions that
that's a checkmate, but at the same time, that's on the same time I can think about it. It's like Mm, I don't think China. I just don't think that they have the balls to go to war with us with Donald Trump in office. I just don't think they would do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, China's been building up its military. It's nowhere close to the American military. But once again, like I just would like to not take that gamble, right?
Exactly.
Okay, last thing I want to ask you about. How do you feel about climate change? And I don't know if you really thought about climate change when you were voting for Trump, but I feel like climate change is a very real issue. I think we're seeing the effects of it already. I mean, you and I both live in the same place. I think it's pretty clear that this year has been extraordinarily warm for the place that we're living in. And Trump has said that climate change is a hoax. What are your thoughts with that?
I mean, honestly, with climate change, I damn near don't know what to think about it. I mean, like it's very real because, like you just said out your own mouth, we feel the effects of it every day, living in the same state.
Yeah, yeah, straight up. Like I
But
wore a
it's like,
t-shirt to work today.
you know what I mean? Because and here's the thing about our state. You know, one day it'll be sunny, the next day it's snowing, the next day it's raining, the next day it's moist.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
No,
I do wonder.
it was literally like 70 degrees one day, then 40 the next day, and then snowing the day after that. It's like it was 70 degrees 2 days ago, and now it's snowing. And that was like last week.
You know what I mean?
That was insane. That was an insane week.
I'm like, shit. The motherfucking clouds just don't know what to do, man.
I mean, so there are some people that would make climate change their main issue. And so there are some voters who would be like, I'm only going to vote for the candidate who is the best on climate change because I think there is a correct opinion, and like you can make an argument for it that climate change is the most important issue because not only should we try to minimize climate change, in my opinion, and like stop the raising temperatures as much as possible, but now we're a little bit too late. Like we're here. The temperatures have changed. Now we need to acknowledge that the temperatures have changed and figure out ways on how to adapt to these changing temperatures. Not only temperatures, the climate, obviously. So I'm not like climate change is a huge issue and it's kind of hard to get down into the weeds, but would you be open to factoring climate change into your vote more, or is that kind of like an issue that's way down the line of importance to you?
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. That one's kind of way down the line to me because, in my opinion, I do wonder what the fuck we could do about climate change.
Yeah.
Like, what I want, like, if it is something you should educate me on it. But I wonder what the hell we could do about a super snowy day or a super hot day outside. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, that's the thing. We're right now we're in a period of change and we can see all of these dramatic weather events from extreme drought to extreme floods, the hurricanes that just hit Florida and what was it, South Carolina, where it hit and like devastated those areas. So we're experiencing climate disasters, and it's not that we didn't experience climate disasters before climate change. It's just that now we're experiencing them at a much faster rate, and so it seems like every year there's like a 1 in 100 year hurricane happening. And so, yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's not an easy answer to it. And Trump doesn't really have an answer to it. He kind of calls it a hoax. And he just says, oh, let's drill for oil. But I think a lot of it is talking about a lot of the answers do lie in getting carbon out of the atmosphere. So, not burning oil, generating electricity through nuclear power, through wind energy, through solar panels. And just since we've been kind of talking about American manufacturing, one thing that I think America has really dropped the ball on, and this can be placed on Donald Trump's shoulders and on Joe Biden's shoulders, but like this kind of green energy, like solar panels, wind turbines, and like nuclear power plants, America should have been investing in that decades ago. Like we should be leading the world in this. And when one concerning thing to me about a Trump presidency is Donald Trump's answer to climate change is we're going to drill for oil, which not only is kind of bad for the environment, but it's also bad for these initiatives to invest in this new technology. And China has actually done a lot of investing in solar panels and nuclear and wind energy. And I think this is an area that the United States is really going backwards on. And so like Trump's president, we can't obviously change that right now, but I would just encourage you to kind of be more open because as complicated and as large of an issue as climate change is, I think the solutions are kind of small. Like just investing more in these technologies and just trying to mitigate the effects of a changing climate that we're living in. I mean, I know that's a lot, but do you think you could be open to like listening more about politicians' energy and climate initiatives?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely listening to it.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, I feel like we're both getting a little tired here, so I'm gonna let you go. Are there any social media platforms that I can shout you out on that people could follow you and maybe like I don't know, talk politics with you if you're interested, or just like check out what you're
Uh,
doing?
no, I'm gonna check out Anonymous. I ain't ready yet. I'll
Dude,
be
that's
back.
totally fair. Would you be interested in talking more about it? You know what I think would be fun if we watched just like MMA together and we like talked politics, talked MMA. Uh, that could be fun stuff to do.
For sure.
All right, bro. Well, listen, I definitely don't agree with voting for Trump, but I think talking to you really showed that you're open minded. Um, and I don't think you're part of the Trump cult, which you can look up videos of people being saying that Trump is like Jesus come again. So I think you were honestly the perfect voter, the perfect Trump voter for a leftist like myself to talk to in the wake of this election. And I think that you're giving people that are feeling really bad about this election and the fact that Donald Trump won, and people are like, oh my God, Trump won. That means that America hates women. That means that America hates gay people. I think that talking to you can give people like that some hope. So I want to thank you for coming on and having this productive conversation. And I hope that I can talk to you again in the future.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. For sure, man. We'll have to set something up, man. Um, yeah, like, yeah, and I want to say one more leaving statement before I go,
Yeah,
because
go
you
for
just
it.
broke something up. So the Democrats who think that we hate women because we voted for Trump, please don't believe that. Um, we love women. We ain't got nothing against women. We ain't never said women ain't this, women ain't that. We never said nothing about that. What it is, we want to be able to provide for women, and we can't do that under Joe Biden's economy. You see what I'm saying? We can do that under Joe Biden. I mean, under Donald Trump's economy. That's why we voted for him.
All
It ain't
right.
nothing against y'all.
All right, man. Well, let's hope so. I mean, we haven't seen Trump's economy yet. Let's hope it's everything that you want it to be. All right, man.
Exactly. Let's hope for it, baby.
All right.
Oh man.
Appreciate you coming on. See ya.
Have a great one.